The Galactic Assembly Hall floated above the blue clouds of Prime, a shining monument of peace that had lasted for nearly 2,000 years. Every known intelligent species had a seat there. Thousands of delegates gathered from across the stars to decide the future of the galaxy. It was meant to be the center of unity and understanding, but on that day, something was different. The humans were silent. Ambassador Rhea Morgan sat in her seat, her jaw tight, her eyes sharp like the edge of glass. Around her, voices rose in 100 alien tongues. The debate had gone on for 3 days, long enough for tempers to fray, long enough for insults to start hiding inside polite words. At the center of the chamber, the holographic display showed Earth, slowly rotating, blue and green and alive. It was surrounded by glowing red lines, sanctions, restrictions, and isolation orders. The Council of Elders, made up mostly of the older and larger empires, had decided that humans had become too aggressive, too unpredictable, and too independent. They wanted to cut humanity off from the trade networks, limit their technology exchange, and forbid them from sending defense fleets beyond their own solar borders. They called it a precaution. To humans, it was an insult. Rhea could feel the weight of every human colony watching through live broadcast. Billions of human eyes, billions of hearts beating in anger and disbelief. Humanity had worked for decades to earn their place in the assembly. And now, because of fear, they were being pushed back to the edge. On her right sat Admiral Thorne, the military representative. His uniform was dark blue, decorated with simple silver lines, no medals, no pride, only quiet strength. He didn't speak much, but his gaze was cold as steel. "They're afraid," he whispered, voice low enough that only Rhea could hear. "They see what we can do and they fear what we might become." Rhea nodded slightly. Fear is no excuse for chains. At the front, the High Speaker, an insectoid being from the Valor Dominion, raised its crystal staff. The hall shimmered with light as the vote began. Holographic names and emblems appeared in the air, every race casting their decision. One by one, the red lights appeared. Vote. Sanction humanity. Vote. Restrict Terran expansion. Vote. Limit trade and fleet movement. Each red light flickered like a wound across the holographic display. Rhea watched quietly as one ally after another turned away. The Andari, who had once traded knowledge with Earth, voted yes. The Koresh, who had shared defense treaties, voted yes. Even the small colonies who had once asked for human aid stayed silent or voted in favor. When the final tally appeared, 82 to 27, the chamber fell into silence. The High Speaker's voice was smooth and formal. "The motion has passed. Humanity will remain a member of the Assembly, but will be restricted to its home system until further review." It was done. For a moment, no one moved. The galaxy itself seemed to hold its breath. Then Rhea stood. Her voice was calm but carried through the entire chamber like thunder rolling across metal skies. "You speak of peace," she said, "but what you fear is not war. You fear progress. You fear that humanity will not bow. You fear that we will not forget who we are." The delegates shifted uncomfortably. Some whispered to translators, others looked away. The assembly was meant to be built on unity. Rhea continued. "On trust. Humanity gave its ships, its medicine, its art, its blood for that unity. And in return you call us dangerous." The High Speaker raised a claw. "Ambassador Morgan, this assembly does not wish to—" "Do not interrupt me," Rhea said sharply. The hall fell silent again. She took a step forward and the lights caught the silver badge on her uniform, the emblem of Earth, surrounded by the symbol of the assembly. "If this is what unity looks like," she said quietly, "then humanity has no place in your circle of fear." Behind her, Admiral Thorne rose. The other human delegates followed, scientists, engineers, diplomats, even the youngest aide, a boy barely out of the academy. Every human in the chamber stood. Rhea turned once more to face the gathered species. Her eyes met theirs, not in anger but in cold, disappointed understanding. "We came here to build something better. You chose to tear it down. Remember this moment when you call for help again. Because next time humanity may not answer." Without another word, she turned and began to walk toward the exit. The human delegation followed in perfect silence. The sound of their footsteps echoed through the great hall, steady and unbroken. Even the automated drones that floated above paused in midair, their lights flickering uncertainly. For the first time in centuries, the assembly was speechless. Some of the younger species looked uneasy. They remembered the wars that humans had helped end. They remembered the plague years when Terran doctors had crossed light years to save entire worlds. They remembered the asteroids that humans had destroyed to protect colonies that weren't even their own. And now those same humans were walking away. The High Speaker's voice trembled slightly. Ambassador Morgan, Earth cannot survive outside the Assembly's protection. Think carefully before you— Rhea didn't look back. We survived long before your protection, she said, and we will do so again. As the massive doors closed behind the last human, the light in the chamber dimmed. The red holographic map still glowed with Earth at its center, but now there was a darkness around it, a silence that felt heavy and alive. Across the galaxy, millions watched the broadcast. On distant worlds, human settlers stood from their work, staring at their screens. In orbital stations and colonies and ships sailing between stars, humans felt something shift inside them, a spark, small but burning bright. For too long, they had tried to be accepted to fit into the galactic order. They had learned alien languages, shared their discoveries, opened their worlds. But now they saw the truth. They were not welcome, but they didn't need permission to rise. Back on Earth, in the halls of the Terran Federation Council, President Alaric Dune watched the same broadcast. His face was calm, but his eyes were sharp and thoughtful. Around him, his advisors spoke in low, urgent tones. "They've voted us out," one said. "Trade routes will close. Supply lines will be cut." Alaric stood slowly. "Then we open our own, sir?" He turned to the wide window that showed the curve of Earth below. Blue oceans, green lands, white clouds. "They think they've contained us," he said quietly. "They've forgotten who taught them how to build ships that cross the stars. They've forgotten who faced the void first." He looked at the stars, his expression firm. "Let them watch. Let the galaxy watch. Humanity will not fade quietly. We will rise again, stronger, wiser, unbound." Outside in orbit, the Terran fleet shimmered under the sunlight. Hundreds of ships, silent and waiting. They had been built for defense, for peacekeeping. But their engines were powerful, their hulls sharp, their hearts human. And in that silence, something ancient awakened. The human will to endure, to adapt, to fight when cornered. The galaxy watched as the humans turned away from the assembly. And though no battle had been fought, everyone who saw it knew something far greater had just begun. The galaxy did not stop spinning after the humans left the assembly, but everything felt different. For centuries, the assembly had been a place of order. But now whispers moved through every hall and data network. Everyone asked the same question: what will the humans do next? No one knew. 1 month later, on Earth, the skies above the Terran capital were filled with movement. Massive ships rose from the shipyards, silent and dark, their hulls reflecting the sunlight like mirrors. The people watched them with pride. These were not warships, at least not in name. They were exploration-class vessels, but everyone knew they were more than that. In the Capitol building, President Alaric Dune stood before the Council of Nations. Holograms of world leaders floated around him, each face marked by determination. "The Assembly believes we will break," Alaric said. "They believe that without their trade, their technology, and their approval, humanity will fall back into silence." "They are wrong." An old scientist named Dr. Imani spoke up. "We still rely on their energy crystals, their quantum cores. Without them, we can't power the long-range ships." Admiral Thorne, standing beside Alaric, replied calmly, "Then we build our own. We adapt. That's what we do best." There was a quiet pause. Everyone in that room knew humanity had always been the youngest of the great spacefaring races. Yet in just a few generations, they had matched the old empires in technology, speed, and courage. "They call us reckless," Alaric continued. "They call us dangerous. But what they fear is our spirit. They fear that we never stop moving forward." The council nodded in silence. Around the world, industries awakened. Old factories reopened. Engineers who once designed civilian transports began sketching new star drives. Scientists who had been forced to work under assembly regulations were now free to experiment without limits. A quiet storm was forming, not one of destruction, but of creation. Meanwhile, beyond Earth in the galactic core, the assembly met again. The hall was not as bright as before. The absence of human delegates left an emptiness no one wanted to mention. The High Speaker stood before the gathered empires. "We must ensure that humanity respects the sanctions," it said. "If they expand beyond their solar borders, it will be considered a violation." A tall reptilian envoy from the Vrix Dominion hissed softly. "They will test us. They always do. We should monitor their movements," others agreed. A surveillance network was proposed. Satellite probes placed near human space to record every movement, every launch, every message. But one ambassador, a small gray-furred creature from the Thalen Union, spoke nervously. "Perhaps we were too harsh. Humans have always been emotional, yes, but also loyal. They have saved worlds that were not their own. Should we not try to make peace?" The High Speaker clicked its mandibles. "Peace is not the problem. Control is." The word hung in the air like a shadow. Some delegates exchanged uneasy glances. Deep inside, many of them wondered if they had made a mistake. They remembered the wars humanity had helped end, the medicines they had shared freely, the colonies they had protected. Now, all that goodwill was fading. The first signal 3 months later, a strange transmission was detected across the galactic network. It was short, encrypted, and unmistakably Terran. The signal was a series of coordinates, deep in unclaimed space far beyond the outer rim. At first, no one knew what it meant. But soon more messages followed. Human ships were being sighted far outside their restricted zone. The Vrix Dominion sent a probe. It recorded something shocking, an enormous orbital structure under construction near a red dwarf star. The humans were building a space station the size of a moon. The report reached the assembly and panic began to spread. "They are violating the restriction," shouted one delegate. "They are building a fleet base," cried another. "They are preparing for war." The High Speaker slammed its staff against the floor. "Enough! We will summon the human ambassador and demand an explanation." But there was silence. Humanity no longer answered the assembly's messages. Back on Earth, the Terran shipyards were now the busiest places in the solar system. Hundreds of thousands worked without rest, scientists, soldiers, and ordinary citizens alike. But they were not preparing for war. Not exactly. Dr. Imani stood in front of the main reactor of the first Nova-class explorer, named Endeavor. The ship was unlike any other. Its engine glowed with a blue light that was not from alien crystals, but from a new human invention, the Singularity Drive. It was built using purely human knowledge, no alien parts, no borrowed tech. It could fold space faster than any known engine. Admiral Thorne inspected the vessel. "You're certain it's safe?" Dr. Imani smiled faintly. "No, Admiral. But it works." Alaric Dune arrived, watching as the massive ship prepared for its maiden jump. "This is it," he said. "The first step toward our freedom." The engines came alive, humming like thunder wrapped in light. And with a single flash, Endeavor vanished into the void. A galaxy reacts. When the assembly received reports that a human ship had jumped beyond mapped space using a new type of drive, the reaction was immediate. The High Speaker's voice trembled with disbelief. "They've built a faster engine. Impossible. That technology takes centuries to perfect." But the recordings didn't lie. The humans had done it, alone in less than a year. "This is what happens when you corner them," said the Thalen ambassador quietly. "They don't break. They evolve." Rumors spread like wildfire. Some claimed humanity had discovered new resources beyond their borders. Others whispered that the humans had found something ancient, something powerful, that had inspired their sudden advance. The truth was simpler. Humanity had rediscovered themselves. They were united, no longer divided by politics or borders. Earth, Mars, Luna, Titan, all worked together as one people under the Terran Federation. Where other empires had stagnated, humans grew. The first return 6 months after the launch of Endeavor, a ship appeared on the edge of Vrix space. It was human, but not like any ship the galaxy had ever seen. Its hull was made of shining alloy unknown to the sensors. Its weapons were silent, hidden, elegant. A message was broadcast across all frequencies. To the Assembly and its member worlds, humanity has chosen independence. We seek no war, but we will not be ruled. Our borders are open for trade, but closed to control. If you wish peace, speak to us as equals. The message was signed simply on Terran Federation command. When the assembly received the message, the hall fell into chaos. Some wanted to send fleets immediately. Others demanded negotiation. The High Speaker stared at the message for a long time before whispering, "They no longer fear us." A spark of hope, meanwhile, on a distant moon, a young alien engineer named Lura watched the human broadcast secretly. Her species was small, often ignored by the larger empires. She saw how humans had stood tall against the assembly, and something stirred inside her. "If they can stand up," she said softly, "maybe we can too." All across the galaxy, smaller civilizations began whispering the same thought. The humans had walked out of the assembly, but they had given others courage. The balance of power was beginning to shift. And seen in orbit around Jupiter, the Endeavour returned home, scarred but shining. The crew stepped out, greeted by millions watching live across the system. Dr. Imani looked up at the sky, her eyes full of pride. Admiral Thorne turned to President Alaric. "They're afraid of us now." Alaric shook his head. "No, they're afraid of what we remind them they could be." He looked toward the stars. "This is not revenge. This is our beginning." And far beyond, in the cold reaches of space, dozens of human ships began to depart, each carrying the same message written on their hulls in glowing letters. For humanity. For freedom. For the future. The galaxy watched again, not in command, but in awe. 6 months had passed since the Terran Federation declared independence from the Galactic Assembly. In those 6 months, humanity had done more than most species did in centuries. New colonies were rising beyond the edges of known space. New ships, faster and stronger, crossed the void where no trade route existed before. Humanity was expanding, calmly, quietly, but powerfully. And across the galaxy, everyone was watching. Ripples in the assembly, the Galactic Assembly Hall. Once proud and filled with confidence, now felt different. The air was heavy, the lights dimmer. The large central table where humanity's seat once stood remained empty, untouched. The High Speaker stood before the gathered leaders, its crystal staff glowing faintly. "We have received multiple reports," it began, "that human vessels are assisting independent colonies without permission. They are spreading their technology to smaller worlds." A deep metallic voice echoed across the chamber. It was the Vrix Dominator, commander of one of the largest fleets in the galaxy. "They are arming others. This cannot continue. The humans will create chaos." The Thalen ambassador, small and gray-furred, spoke softly. "Perhaps they are offering help, not weapons. I have read their transmissions. They are building schools, hospitals, water systems, things the Assembly neglected for decades." The High Speaker slammed its staff. "We did not sanction these actions. Humanity must be brought back into order." But in the corners of the room, quiet voices murmured. They said the same when the humans cured the Lyrian plague, and when they saved the colonies of the Outer Rim. Maybe they are doing what we failed to do. The High Speaker's eyes flashed. "Enough!" Yet even as the Assembly tried to control the situation, the truth was clear. The galaxy was changing, and it was changing because of humanity. The new frontier far from the Assembly's reach, the Endeavour and her fleet had begun establishing a new human frontier. They called it the Terran Expansion Zone, a series of colonies and stations along the edge of unclaimed space. Captain Mira Holt stood on the bridge of the Endeavour, gazing at the glowing nebula outside. Her crew worked quietly around her, their faces focused and calm. "Status report?" she asked. "Station Alpha is complete, Captain," replied her first officer, Commander Reyes. "The colony on New Eden is stable. They've already started terraforming the nearby moons." Mira smiled. "Good. Keep the engineers working. We're not just building homes, we're building a future." A young ensign turned in his seat. "Captain, incoming signal. It's from the Thalen Union. They're asking for aid. Famine on their outer colonies." Mira's smile faded. "The same Thalen Union that voted for our sanction?" "Yes, ma'am." The crew exchanged uncertain looks. For a moment, no one spoke. Then Mira turned to her officers. "Prepare medical ships and cargo freighters. Send them food and supplies." Reyes hesitated. "Even after what they did to us?" Mira nodded. "We don't help because they deserve it. We help because we're human." Her words spread through the crew like quiet fire, steady, proud, unstoppable. The broadcast that shook the galaxy 2 weeks later. Across every known world, a broadcast interrupted all channels. It was not from the Assembly. It was from the Terran Federation. President Alaric Dune appeared on every screen, calm and composed. Behind him floated the flag of Earth, a blue circle of stars around a rising sun. To all the peoples of the galaxy, he began, his voice steady, we bring you a message of peace. Humanity does not seek control but cooperation. We are open to trade, open to friendship, and ready to help those who wish to build a better future. He paused. The Assembly believes power means domination. We believe it means responsibility. We have been called reckless, dangerous, unfit, yet in every corner of space we find the same truth. Those who are most afraid of change are those who have stopped growing. He looked directly into the camera. We will not kneel, but we will extend our hand. The galaxy can rise together, or fall divided. The choice is yours. The transmission ended, but its echo rippled through the stars. Across the worlds in the Vrix Dominion, the broadcast was met with fury. Their leaders called for military action. Humans are spreading rebellion, they roared. In the Thalan Union, quiet hope spread. Ordinary citizens watched the broadcast with shining eyes. Some even raised banners that said, "We stand with humanity." On mining worlds, slave workers whispered of Terran ships bringing freedom. On forgotten moons, small colonies painted the human symbol on their shelters as a sign of protection. And on HFY, the home of the Assembly itself, students began peaceful demonstrations. Chanting a strange new slogan, "We are all human," the threat in the shadows, but not everyone admired humanity's rise. In the dark edges of the galaxy, powerful empires watched with fear and anger. Among them was the Vrix Dominion, a reptilian empire built on conquest. Their leader, Warlord Scar, stood before a holographic map showing the growing Terran influence. His golden eyes burned with hatred. They are expanding like a virus, he hissed. If we do nothing, they will control the border sectors within years. His second-in-command, General Drax, replied, The Assembly will not act. They argue while humans move. Then we act, Scar growled. We will remind the galaxy who holds power. Prepare the fleet. Our first target will be one of their new colonies. Strike fast and leave no trace, Drax bowed. Which colony? The one they call New Eden. The calm before the storm on New Eden, life was peaceful. The colony had grown to 10,000 settlers, surrounded by green forests and rivers under a pale sky. Children played, scientists worked, and engineers built new homes. They believed the Assembly's threats were far away. Captain Mira Holt visited the colony's command tower. She looked out across the fields and smiled softly. For the first time, she said to Commander Reyes, it feels like we've built something pure. Reyes nodded. A world without war, without Assembly control, just people trying to live free. But as they spoke, far beyond the horizon, something moved. Silent shapes cutting through space. Dozens of ships, dark and sharp, slipped from hyperspace and began their approach. The attack hours later, alarms blared across New Eden. The sky turned red as explosions lit the upper atmosphere. Unidentified vessels approaching, a voice shouted over comms. They're not broadcasting any codes. Mira ran to the command bridge of the Endeavor. Shields up! Get our fighters airborne. Outside, the colony's defense drones launched into the air, forming lines of light. The human ships responded fast, trained, disciplined, prepared. The Vrix fleet opened fire first. Beams of energy cut through the sky, striking the outer shield domes. Colonists ran for cover as emergency sirens echoed through the settlements. Return fire, Mira ordered. The Endeavor's cannons roared, blue energy flashing across space. The first enemy cruiser exploded, scattering debris into the void. Who are they? Reyes shouted. Mira's eyes narrowed as she saw the enemy emblem appear on the screen, a serpent wrapped around a star. Vrix Dominion, she said quietly. Of course, the turning point, the battle raged for hours. Though the humans were outnumbered, they fought with precision and unity. Every ship moved like a piece of a single living organism. Admiral Thorne were pinned down. Mira called over comms. Thorne's voice came back steady and cold. Hold the line, Captain. Reinforcements are coming. Moments later, several Terran ships jumped in, new Nova-class vessels with improved drives. Their arrival changed everything. Within minutes, the human fleet surrounded the Vrix attackers. One by one, enemy ships fell. The survivors fled into hyperspace, leaving behind wreckage and silence. When the smoke cleared, the colonists of New Eden stood outside their shelters, looking up at the sky. They saw Terran ships patrolling above them, their hulls shining in the light. They were safe. Aftermath Mira stood on the bridge, watching the stars return to calm. They attacked without warning, she said. This wasn't a random raid. Admiral Thorne's image appeared on the screen. No, he said. They wanted to test us to see if we would break. Mira's voice hardened. They'll learn soon enough. We don't break, Thorne nodded. Prepare for new orders, Captain. The President wants a message sent to the Assembly. It's time they understand that humanity is no longer the student of the stars. We are their equal. The screen faded. Mira turned toward the stars, her eyes reflecting the glow of distant battles yet to come. And somewhere, deep in the heart of the galaxy, the Assembly received the report of what had happened on New Eden. For the first time, they realized the truth. Humanity was not rising, humanity had already risen. The galaxy had watched, and now it trembled. Humanity's bold steps had proven something long suspected but rarely admitted. Humans were not to be underestimated. Yet the Terran Federation knew that victory at New Eden was only the beginning. They had defended a single colony, but beyond that lay uncharted space, new settlements and older empires that would not sit quietly. Strategic command on the Endeavor, Captain Mira Holt paced the bridge. Reports from every Terran colony streamed in constantly. Small settlements in outer systems, newly founded trade stations, and exploration teams returning from unknown regions. Captain, Commander Reyes said, pointing at a holographic map of the galaxy, we have multiple contacts from smaller worlds requesting protection and technology. They are asking for guidance. Mira studied the map. Blue dots represented Terran colonies. Yellow dots represented new allies. Red dots, the Assembly-controlled territories, remained distant, wary. They want more than protection, Mira said softly. They want hope, and we have to give it. Reyes frowned. Hope can be dangerous. It spreads faster than fleets. One spark and everyone will follow us. The Assembly won't allow it. Mira's jaw tightened. Then let them try to stop it. The Assembly's dilemma back at HFY, the Galactic Assembly convened an emergency session. The halls buzzed with tension. Emperors, governors, and delegates argued, shouted, and gestured wildly. The High Speaker raised its staff, attempting to restore order. The humans are influencing the border sectors, it said. They are offering resources, technology, and protection. Entire systems are declaring support for them. The Vrix warlord Scar slammed his clawed hand on the table. We cannot allow this. We cannot let humanity undermine centuries of control. The Thalen ambassador, however, spoke with caution. Perhaps we should reconsider. Their influence is not built on force, but on goodwill. We can either adapt or be left behind. Adapt? Scar hissed. We will crush them before adaptation is needed. Even as Scar spoke, the hall remained uneasy. Smaller species whispered among themselves. The humans had changed something intangible, a reminder of courage, determination, and unity. The expansion, on the edge of the unclaimed sectors, the Terran expansion zone, grew rapidly. Colonies that had been barren rock now teemed with life. Cities rose, powered by human innovation and determination. Farms flourished under controlled climates. Educational centers were established to teach both humans and local species advanced science, medicine, and technology. Captain Mira visited the planet Arboris, a lush world newly integrated into the Terran expansion zone. Children from multiple species ran freely across fields, learning from human and alien instructors alike. This is what it's about, Mira told Commander Reyes. Not just survival, but civilization. Not just defense, but progress. Reyes smiled faintly. And yet the Assembly and the Vrix are building fleets. They won't leave us in peace. Mira's gaze shifted to the horizon where the pale blue sun cast long shadows over the fields. Then we'll show them that courage and unity are stronger than fear. The first strike plan, despite their victories, the humans knew danger was coming. The Vrix Dominion had not forgotten New Eden. Scouts reported the movement of a massive fleet deep in uncharted space. Estimates suggested hundreds of ships bristling with weapons and shields stronger than anything humans had faced before. President Alaric Dune convened his council. The Vrix are preparing for an attack, he said. We cannot wait for them to reach our colonies. We must strike first, but carefully. Our goal is not conquest, it is deterrence. Admiral Thorne stepped forward. We can lure them into a region of our choosing. Our ships are faster and more agile than theirs. If we force them into tight space near an asteroid field or nebula, we can control the battle. A young strategist, Lieutenant Kara Singh, spoke next, and we can use the colonists. If they see Terran fleets moving decisively, morale across the sector will rise. Humans and allies will be ready to defend themselves. Alaric nodded. Prepare the fleet. Humanity will not strike in anger. We strike in defense and in demonstration. Let them know the galaxy has changed. The journey into the unknown, the Endeavor led a fleet of 50 Terran ships toward the border sector. Every vessel was equipped with the newest human technologies, designed and tested in secrecy over the past year. As they traveled, Mira walked the corridors, observing the crew. Engineers worked tirelessly to maintain the singularity drives. Medical officers prepared emergency systems, and communications officers transmitted updates to every allied colony. A young pilot, barely out of the academy, approached Mira nervously. "Captain, what if we lose?" Mira smiled gently. "We won't lose because we fight alone. We fight because humanity stands together and because we always adapt. Fear is not the enemy. Stagnation is. We do not give in to either." The pilot nodded, determination settling in his eyes. The ambush 3 weeks into the journey, sensors picked up unusual readings. A fleet larger than expected was hiding near a dense nebula. The Vrix were waiting. "Ambush," Commander Reyes said, his voice calm but urgent. Mira's eyes narrowed. "Activate shields. Move ships into formation." The nebula's dense gas made scanning difficult, but humanity had adapted. Using a combination of visual sensors and quantum detection systems, the fleet navigated the fog. Then, without warning, the Vrix opened fire. Bright beams of energy lanced through the nebula, striking the outer Terran vessels. Explosions illuminated the misty clouds as smaller Terran ships maneuvered to protect the larger vessels. "Hold the line," Mira commanded. "Do not break formation." Tactics of the brave, the Terran fleet moved like a living organism. Ships rotated, interchanged positions, and created shields to protect weaker units. The Vrix, while powerful, were slower and less coordinated. Captain Mira's voice echoed through the fleet. "Prepare countermeasures. Target weak points. Remember, the strongest ship is the one that adapts first." Using asteroid fields and the nebula as cover, the Terrans launched surprise attacks. Smaller Vrix ships were disabled quickly, larger cruisers were forced into narrow corridors, and the human fleet struck with precision. The battle raged for hours. Outside the nebula, stars twinkled as if indifferent, but the void itself trembled with energy beams and explosions. Turning the tide at the height of the battle, Admiral Thorne activated the singularity drive on the Endeavor. In a flash, the flagship disappeared and reappeared behind the Vrix command cruiser. With coordinated fire, the humans disabled the Vrix bridge and communication systems. The Vrix fleet faltered. Panic spread among their ranks. Ships scattered, trying to escape the maze of asteroids and nebula clouds. Mira's voice cut through comms. "This battle is over. Retreat if you can. But know this. The Terran Federation defends all who stand with us. Humanity does not strike first, but we will not be intimidated." The aftermath: when the battle ended, the Terran fleet had minimal losses. Colonies along the border sector received reports, and morale soared. Across the unclaimed regions, smaller worlds began requesting Terran protection and support. In the assembly, reports of the human victory caused shockwaves. The High Speaker, for the first time, appeared hesitant. "They fight differently," it admitted. "They do not follow the rules of war as we know them. They inspire others. This is dangerous." Even the Vrix warlord Scar, furious and humiliated, could not deny the lesson learned. Humanity was no ordinary species. A new era back on New Eden, Captain Mira walked among the colonists. Children waved, adults cheered, and for the first time, a sense of security settled over the planet. Lieutenant Kara Singh approached Mira. "They won't give up easily," she said. Mira smiled, looking at the rising sun. "No, they won't, but neither will we. Humanity has learned to rise every time it is challenged. That is our strength. That is our gift. That is why the galaxy watches in awe and in terror." The stars stretched endlessly above, silent witnesses to the rise of a new power, not built on fear but on courage, unity, and the relentless drive to protect freedom. And in that quiet, powerful moment, Every human understood a truth that would guide them for generations. The galaxy could doubt them. The galaxy could fear them, but the galaxy would never ignore them again. The galaxy held its breath. After the battle near New Eden, news of humanity's victory spread like wildfire. The assembly trembled, smaller empires whispered in secret, and colonies previously under strict control began quietly declaring allegiance to the Terran Federation. But the humans did not pause. They were not seeking glory. They were shaping a future. The call for unity. In the Terran Federation's capital on Earth, President Alaric Dune addressed the council. Holograms of every colony flashed in the room, showing thriving human settlements and allied worlds. Humanity has survived and we have defended ourselves, Alaric began. But our mission is greater than defense. We must show the galaxy that cooperation and strength can coexist. That fear is not the path to peace. That courage is not the path to chaos. Admiral Thorne stepped forward. The Vrix Dominion is regrouping. Other empires are observing. This is our moment to solidify our position and offer a new model for the galaxy, one where freedom and responsibility go hand in hand. A young strategist, Lieutenant Kara Singh, added, "We should send ambassadors to the smaller worlds. Let them see that humanity will protect but not oppress. Let them know our power is tempered with justice," Alaric nodded. "Prepare the diplomatic fleets. Humanity's next step will not be a strike. It will be an invitation." The diplomatic fleet captain Mira Holt stood on the bridge of the flagship Endeavour, observing the diplomatic convoys leaving Earth. Hundreds of ships carried supplies, engineers, teachers, and ambassadors. They traveled light years to offer aid to unaligned colonies and species previously overlooked by the Assembly. "The galaxy will notice," Mira said to Commander Reyes. "We show strength not with weapons, but with our willingness to help." Reyes nodded. "And some will fear us for it." "Let them," Mira replied. "Fear is temporary. Respect lasts forever." Ships flew past stars and nebulae, carrying hope into dark corners of the galaxy. For the first time in generations, small worlds felt safe, not because of treaties or mandates, but because of human initiative. The Assembly's reaction. The High Speaker convened an emergency session. Holographic reports from the frontiers of human expansion filled the chamber. Systems previously ignored were now thriving under Terran protection. Colonies that had suffered famine, disease, and neglect now had medicine, food, and technology. "You have allowed humanity to redefine influence," one alien diplomat said quietly to the High Speaker. "They do not conquer. They inspire." Scar, the Vrix warlord, slammed his clawed fist. "They will not stop. They must be contained before more systems join them." The High Speaker's crystal staff glowed faintly. "Containment may be impossible. Humanity acts with unity, speed, and morality. They are unlike any species we have known." Whispers spread throughout the Assembly. For the first time, the leaders of old empires wondered if they had misjudged the humans for centuries. A bold proposal. President Alaric Dune sent an official message to the Assembly. It was simple, but unmistakable. The Terran Federation will no longer remain bound by the Assembly's outdated restrictions. We invite any willing species to join us in creating a new council, one that respects freedom, cooperation, and mutual progress. We offer peace, but we will not bow to fear. The message was broadcast to every corner of the galaxy, reaching empires, colonies, and independent systems alike. For many, it was shocking. Some laughed in disbelief. Some trembled in fear. But the young species, those who had long waited for protection and guidance, watched with hope. The turning point in orbit above the human colony on Vespera Prime, a small conference convened. Representatives from 5 minor empires, previously ignored by the Assembly, gathered to speak with Terran diplomats. One of them, an elder named Corin from the Gerald sector, said softly, "Your actions inspire. You do not conquer. You protect. You do not rule. You lead." Alaric Dune replied, "We do what must be done. Every species deserves a chance to grow. Humanity will show that strength and justice can coexist. That is our path." The conference ended with formal agreements. Humanity had gained its first true allies outside the Terran Federation. The galaxy's balance was shifting, not through fear but through vision. The warning, yet not all were pleased. The Vrix Dominion remained a threat. Scar had rebuilt his fleets in secret, training ships and preparing advanced weaponry. He studied the human tactics from past battles, attempting to anticipate their moves. They inspire loyalty and hope. He hissed, "We must show them that power without fear is nothing. We must remind them of the old ways, obedience or annihilation." Meanwhile, smaller empires allied with the humans prepared to defend themselves. The galaxy had entered a new era, where morality, courage, and determination challenged centuries of rigid control. The human resolve on New Eden, Captain Mira Holt walked among colonists. Children played safely in the fields, adults worked tirelessly to expand the colony, and Terran diplomats spoke with local species. A young engineer approached Mira. "Captain, the Vrix might strike again." "What do we do?" Mira smiled, her eyes calm and determined. "We prepare. Not for revenge. Not for war. We prepare to protect what we've built, and we remember that humanity has always risen in the face of challenge. Every time someone tells us we cannot, we prove we can." Reyes joined her, nodding. "We have the fleet, the technology, and the people. We are ready." Mira looked to the sky, the stars bright and countless above them. "The galaxy is watching. Let them see the future we create, not in fear, but in courage." The Assembly watches in silence across the void. The Assembly received reports of every human action, the aid to colonies, the victories against aggression, the expansion of Terran influence. The High Speaker's voice, usually commanding, trembled slightly in private sessions. They do not seek war, and yet they wield power that cannot be ignored. The Vrix warlord Scar's anger had not cooled. "We underestimated them. We feared nothing. Yet they have shown us strength beyond our expectations. The galaxy may no longer belong to us alone." The Thalen ambassador whispered to a colleague, "Perhaps humanity is a warning, not a threat. That courage, unity, and morality can shape the stars more than fleets and laws ever could." A message to the Galaxy President Alaric Dune addressed the galaxy one final time in this era. "Humanity has walked out of fear and oppression. We have built, defended, and inspired. We offer friendship and cooperation to any who seek it, but we will not be confined by fear, and we will not kneel to oppression. The galaxy watches us now. We will show that courage, unity, and freedom are not only ideals, they are the way forward." This message resonated across systems. From the smallest moons to the largest planets, species who had once been silent now began to speak, align, and act in ways previously unimagined, the beginning of a new order. The human colonies were now safe, strong, and growing. New worlds joined the Terran Federation voluntarily, inspired by the example of unity and courage. The Assembly had lost its grip, not because of fearsome power alone, but because humanity had reminded the galaxy of something vital. Strength is measured not by control, but by the courage to stand for what is right. In the corridors of the Terran Council, President Alaric Dune looked at his team. "This is only the beginning," he said. "The galaxy is vast, but humanity will show it that hope can travel faster than fear." Admiral Thorne added, "They may test us again, but we will rise every time. We are humans. That is our greatest weapon and our greatest gift." Mira Holt gazed at the stars beyond the council chamber window. "Let them watch. Let the galaxy watch. We do not conquer. We protect. We inspire. And one day everyone will know the power of what it means to be human." And far across the void, billions of human eyes sparkled in unison. On every colony, every station, every ship, they looked to the stars with one thought: we will rise. We will endure. We will shape the galaxy. The galaxy had indeed watched. It had feared. But now it understood. Humanity was not merely a member of the stars. They were the spark that could light the universe.